In studio, George Clark. He's the former assistant fire chief with the Utica Fire Department. George, good morning.
Good morning.
A lot of talk this week, probably a lot of cringing talk in the last week and a half.
That would be correct.
Discomfort and...
extreme discomfort,
I
yes.
get it. So I want to ask you what a lot has happened since we had booked you to come in today. So I've heard a lot of people say, I don't think this ever happened. How did this happen and no one know? Seems like something has gone on. No one is denying that this happened, and the text messages paint a really ugly picture. What's your take?
Correct. I mean, something did happen because the text messages are there.
Yeah.
But were those text messages crude humor, or were they actual, looking at some sort of actions actually being done? And I'm not sure that actually happened.
I will tell you that the we sat with Mr. Ambrose, and he is in full belief, 100%, that things have happened, and has told us that his son has spoken of, in particular, exactly what had happened in the chambers there. I call it the chambers. Is that fair?
Yeah, a dorm room.
It's a dorm room, which is for the
deputies.
For the deputies. Correct. So, but other than that, we have a young man who claims it did to his father, and that's what we have.
Right, and I was not aware that he's made those statements, that actual things had happened. I mean, obviously, I've been retired for 2 months.
Yep.
But before I left, this obviously had come to the forefront.
Yeah.
And
so you knew about it before you left?
I knew it before, but yeah. And the timing in my mind is just a little suspect. When his son didn't get the job, this all came to light.
Well, and I should not be here answering on his behalf,
right.
But I can only tell you what, and I don't want it to seem that way.
Right.
And Jeff, feel free to step in and help me out here.
Sure.
Because we were all in the room when and what he told us,
right,
is that you're absolutely correct. His son didn't get the job.
Right.
He was angry.
Right.
And came to his father and said, I went through all of this thinking I was going to get a job and didn't get a job.
Okay.
And that's when he showed his dad the text messages. So you're right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my only point would be that the time to come forward may have been before that. If this actually happened, then there's no use holding on to this. Let's get this done.
Do you think Ambrose held on, the father?
I'm not sure.
Because I
can't say.
He's saying, he gave us in the statement that he released yesterday, gave us the timeline. He found out on March 2nd. He went to, obviously, if these things are all true and these text messages are true, any dad and mom would be devastated by reading through those 100%. Text messages. No doubt about it.
Right.
And within days, he went to his attorney and recommended that he go to the mayor, and that's when it went to the mayor's office by March. I forget the exact date, but somewhere within a week, he had turned everything over to the mayor's office. Right. He claims he would have no benefit to knowing this beforehand, and became a dad, not a deputy chief, on the day that his son told him.
Well, again, I only got one side of the story.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, as soon as they determined who was going to be hired, he made a statement that John Kelly told to me that it's all right, I have another card to play. So I don't know, what that card was.
Who said that?
Mark Ambrose.
Okay.
To John Kelly.
So let me ask you this: getting to the hiring,
you realize you're opening a real can of worms here.
Believe me, I don't want to be here.
I know.
Look, the fire department itself, I can tell you the morale is completely shot right now.
Yeah, it's been one after another.
And it's one thing
starting
after
with
another.
The Chiefs, then the other
teams. It's destroying these guys.
Yeah.
It's affecting them on the street. And that can't happen. These 99% do their job day in and day out, and they do it very well. And I can tell you, I was a union rep. I've been all over the country. I've been all over the state. And people don't want to believe this, but this is one of the best fire departments there is.
Yeah.
Hands down. We have a lot of cutting-edge stuff. These guys are dedicated like you cannot be, and women. They're dedicated like you can't believe. And they're being run through this stuff. And, again, nobody knows for sure what happened on either side. But they're all being, I mean, just the comments I'm hearing from social media. I'm not on social media, so I apologize. But people are telling me what's on social media. They're destroying the department for no reason.
Yeah.
This is individuals. And, I can assure you that as soon as this was taken, the mayor called me right to his office and said, consider staying. And I did, but from what I was to learn or, gain from this was that this was just sophomoric humor. Very, very bad sophomoric humor.
In fairness, because you're imagine if this was a female, you would be really ridiculed for the statements you're making today.
Absolutely.
You'd be getting crushed over this.
I'm going to get crushed now.
You are. Because I want to say this is still a 23-year-old boy.
Absolutely.
And I say boy because we all know kids they're not mature like they used to be. Kids stay
Absolutely.
home but here's the only thing. So you say that John Kelly is basically saying this was just sophomoric humor.
Correct.
What's he going to tell you? Is he going to say, I was masturbating in the room and I brought in the kid? He's not going to tell you that.
Correct, which is why the mayor immediately ordered UPD to investigate.
So, but UPD did investigate. They never came back and said it didn't happen. They came back and said it wasn't criminal because the kid is over age.
Well, we don't.
So with that said, why in the world would the mayor put Ambrose and Kelly? Why wouldn't you treat it the same way you treated Fort and say we don't know what happened?
Right.
We're going to get to the bottom of it, but until we do, Mr. Kelly is going to have to step aside until we do an investigation. He didn't do that.
Correct.
That, to me, is despicable on the mayor's part.
But we're assuming that the police report didn't identify any of this stuff. Nobody knows the police report. Through civil rights law, as a union president, as a union president, they're sealed for a reason because people can make false accusations, and then you're out there and you're already destroyed based on false. So that's why there's a good reason why.
Totally get it, but it wasn't applied with Fort.
And again,
as a union representative, that had to bother you. Here's a guy being raked over the coals. There'd been no test. There'd been no even an accusation, and they automatically just knew he did it.
I mean, I don't know who released that name.
I know.
That name should have never been released.
I agree.
And whoever released that name should be held accountable.
Yeah.
That's where that you're 100% correct. But I can, as far as I know, it didn't come from fire administration who released that name. So you're 100% correct. Fort's name should have never been out there.
So the question that we have to ask and foil, and the mayor should not stand in the way of this, is does the police department, after their investigation, because if their task was, and it seems like it was, let's be honest,
to find out what happened.
The problem we have is the mayor didn't come out and say this never happened. The mayor came out and said it wasn't criminal. Semantics, in my opinion. Okay. What we need to know, the public deserves the answer to, is were these accusations valid? Did they really happen? Because if there was porn, masturbation, and sword fighting, whatever the hell that is, going on in that deputy's quarters, he should not be. He should not be deputy chief right now.
I'd be agree.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I would agree. But we don't have that information yet.
I get it. I understand that.
You know, there's a lot of bad blood going around that, until this is resolved, there's going to be bad blood.
Yeah.
I mean, right now you don't have an assistant chief and a chief. I mean, you got a chief for another week and a half. So there's no management there at the moment.
We were told, and I hate to say this is going to get uglier. It's got to get uglier. Because you got to get to the bottom of it.
I'm hoping it doesn't get uglier, but you have to get to the bottom of it.
Let me throw this.
I would agree.
As you get to the bottom, it's going to get ugly. So here's what we were told in our meeting with Mr. Ambrose, that the quote-unquote sword fighting in the dorm, that his son was not the only one, that there was another firefighter that Mr. Kelly had told his son, who had also... I've never heard of such a thing. But, so I have a feeling like there should be a full investigation. And the question, the answer that I think that the city needs to know was this a false accusation? I would say, based on the text messages, pretty ugly locker room talk. But still, I don't know how we move forward without getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and I agree. But my understanding is UPD should have had all that information also, because they did interview. My understanding is before I left, they interviewed Mr. Ambrose and his son. So I would think they would have a good indication on this. And again, if there is something there, I'm on board with everybody else.
Sure.
I just think there's another, everybody's jumping to conclusions that they don't have all the facts.
Can I ask a question on the hiring process that I think we need to go over? The idea that there was information released that the son wouldn't be hired. This is done by test score?
Yes.
Or talk about how this works.
Okay. So state of New York has band scoring. So what you end up with, you have a group of people who maybe scored 100, group of people who scored 95, 90, and 85. And you have to hire 1 in 3. Okay, so basically what that means is if you have 3 people that have 100s, you have to hire one of those 100s.
Before you can move on to the 95.
Hire one of those.
Right, hire one of those.
Okay.
And then if you have only 1 100 and you have 15 95s, you can hire any one of the 95s. Okay, so in this particular case, his score was the next band. They could have gotten to him, but they had 5 individuals, which I think there may have been even 6 individuals with scores in the group above him. And some of them have been interviewed before, but positions not available because there's only so many. And they hired from that group. Okay. So it wasn't a matter that they skipped this individual. They didn't. They took somebody from the group ahead of them. And they didn't interview anybody in that other group. They didn't interview anybody.
I want to ask. We're running out of time, I want to ask what I think is an important question. Let's say sword fighting was just locker room talk.
Yep.
Sword fighting is apparently where you stick your. Okay, we all know what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think everybody gets it.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need the graphic.
Got it.
Thank you, George.
For the record, I'm not built to sword fight. I don't think I could sword fight, to be honest. Just putting that out there. Okay. Let's say it never happened. Mm-hmm. Kid's lying. What type of discipline? Because I know you would never have text messages with a prospective recruit. Let's just be honest here.
Correct.
No sexual masturbating. None of this stuff ever really happened. The graphic nature of those text messages, there is zero place, in my opinion, for that between a ranking member of the Utica Fire Department and a prospective recruit. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. In this particular case, though, I would say it's more like you and Jeff, you're friends. You're exchanging
He's
texts.
a kid that spent a lot of time
there.
there.
It's not so. I mean, I think a lot of people are putting in that it's a superior ranking officer and a recruit, when in actuality
he was just a volunteer.
They were more friends than they were, that actual aspect.
Have you talked to Kelly since?
I talked to him last night, just from what he told me, that he was resigning and that the mayor was issuing a release, and then I saw it on the news last night.
Without speaking on his behalf, does he feel that this violated, that they were just talking back and forth? And
I don't know his actual feelings. I know he's retained an attorney, so I don't know, what that means or anything. But, I mean, this isn't going away. But I would like everybody to take a deep breath till we get all the answers.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. There should be some more answers, but it's got to be definitive one way or the other. Either something happened or didn't. And if it didn't, we're destroying a lot of people's morale and careers over stupid.
And I think
work.
that's already happened. Like the
the
hardworking guys, women.
Right. And one guy and another one isn't getting a job.
Right.
There's a lot of damage here on both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides. And that shouldn't have happened.
And I can't imagine what Kelly's family is going through. I can't imagine what Ambrose's family is going through. It is ugly all the way around. But then you have every hardworking man and woman that work so hard in that fire department that are just being dragged through the mud right now.
And as someone you've been through this over the years. Once your name is out there, the loons come out on social media and just destroy you.
Yeah, you had to remind me about that, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, we've all been there. When I was union president, I mean, we didn't have as much social media then, but yeah, you're always under the gun.
You're a target, no doubt. Listen, I appreciate you coming out, offering a different perspective. Let's hope that we get
Let's get to the bottom of it and let's solve this.
I agree. We really appreciate it, George Clark.
Yes.
Thanks for coming in.